for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. LaBita.tv. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, welcome to the Sick Podcast on this Monday, December 4th. It is 10:12 p.m. The Canadiens just disposed of the Seattle Kraken minutes ago at the Bell Center by a score of 4-2. The keys to success tonight, the Montreal Canadiens said, let's do to Seattle what the Detroit Red Wings did to us a couple of days ago. Let's get out to a lead. 1, 2, 3. And at that point, when the other team's going to try and play catch up, it'll be too little, too late. And that's exactly what happened tonight. And the way this game ended was something really unbelievable. The Canadiens take a 3-0 lead. Seattle comes back, storms back with 2 goals. And then when the goalie pulled, Josh Anderson, of all people, Josh Anderson, who was looking for his first goal of the season, throws it down the ice or shoots it down the ice. About 180 feet he was, and he ends up scoring his first goal of the season to seal the deal. But right before that, Samuel Montembeault made many big saves in this hockey game. On one occasion, he could thank his goalpost as well because Bjorkström hit the post in period number 3, but he stopped Eberle with less than 3 minutes to go in close. That was a big one, and that's why the Montreal Canadiens signed Samuel Montembeault to a 3-year contract about a week ago. And to celebrate that contract in front of his fans, he wins a big game for the Montreal Canadiens. Montembeault was on fire tonight. Look at it. There we go. Here we go. A little bit of fire in the background. That's exactly what are we going to do there. Da 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 da. Bleu, blah, rouge. One guy who's dancing the tarantella right now, I could tell you, has to be Grant McCagg of Recruits and Recruits.ca, former Montreal Canadian scout in the Bob Gainey administration, who also co-hosts, along with Shane Gaumont, the Recruits Draftcast podcast. And he must be really happy because he's been clamoring, he's been wanting, he's been asking for Juraj Slafkovsky to play on a line with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. And I'd be willing to bet that Mr. McCagg is pretty happy with Juraj's performance tonight. Hey, listen, before I get to Grant, I want to actually welcome and invite to the podcast a brand new partner/sponsor. We're very excited to welcome Accent Insurance Solutions as a new sponsor of the Sick Podcast. You all know insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product, right on the money, whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business. It's funny, when I saw Accent's phone number, I immediately thought of my good buddy Sergio Momesso, because their number is 514-363-3636. That's right, 514-363-3636. To Ted and everyone over at Accent Insurance Solutions, we're really happy that you are part of our team and you chose the Sick Podcast. We're so happy. We're delighted. We hope you're going to enjoy the podcast, not only tonight, for the rest of the season, the year after, the year after, the year after, the year after, because we are going to the top, slowly but surely, and we'd like to do it together. Let's bring in Grant McCagg of Recruits and Recruits.ca. Once again, Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, as well as LaBita TV, and as well as Playground. What's craculating, my friend?
Couldn't be happier, Tony. You hit the nail on the head. I'm happiest for Josh Anderson. I mean, you couldn't help but crack a smile when he, you saw that puck heading down into the middle of the net, and it's like, my goodness, he's going to score a goal. Yeah.
You can pull that one on somebody else. You can't pull it on me. You're happy for Josh Anderson. You're happiest for Uri Slafkovsky because it's a couple of years you've been telling everyone that's the guy they have to draft with the number 1 pick overall. And during that time, some people, and sometimes maybe even me, told you, Grant, what are you talking about? He's not Logan Cooley. He doesn't have his hands. He doesn't have his skills. He doesn't have his playmaking ability. He doesn't have this and he doesn't have that. But you're right tonight. Was amazing on the forecheck, amazing on the puck protection, amazing on the reads, amazing on the determination, amazing on the confidence in himself, and at one point looking like he was possessed to take it and go from one end to the other and go to the net and score the goal. Uri Slafkovsky, you're going to look at who scored the goals tonight, and let's bring it up, as a matter of fact, if we can, who scored these goals tonight in this hockey game. Agnello, Sammy, Juliana back in master control, feeling 100% now. Sean Monahan, 4:03 into period number 1. Second period, Anderson and Evans getting the assist. Second period, it was Pearson, assisted by Dvorak and Gallagher. Then it was Monahan on the power play, assisted by Caulfield and Suzuki. That was tick-tack. McCann and then Dunn narrow the lead. They score a couple of goals for the Seattle Kraken. And once again, Josh Anderson, with 32 seconds left in regulation, seals the deal in an empty net. You're not going to see Uri Slafkovsky's name there. But on that third goal to give the Canadians a 3-0 lead, the Canadians are on a power play. And Marty St. Louis puts Suzuki, Caulfield, Monahan, Matheson, and Slafkovsky. And Slafkovsky is able to make a real good play. You won't see him there on the score sheet, but a real positive game for him tonight, Grant.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've been wanting to see that quintet all year on the power play. It just seemed like the obvious, they tried everything else. They tried Gallagher. They tried, they kept Newhook, Anderson for the longest time. It was time to give Slafkovsky a go. And when I found out, today that he was playing on the first line, I was pretty happy. And then that first power play, wow, he's on the point. I did a double take. I had to, wipe my eyes. I see a 0. There's a big guy on the point. Is that Slav? So yeah, I think, and also, even like he was in a good scoring position there too. Like Suzuki had him as an option there. Yeah. And they had to lean, one of the defensemen had to sort of lean towards Slav. So that opened up Monahan as well for that pass. And Suzuki was really good tonight too. That whole line was excellent. I think they had 8 shots on net, and their Corsi and Fenwick, I was looking at it for the lines, was very good. Surprisingly, actually, the Dvorak line was even better Corsi-wise. Mm-hmm. Pearson had 6 shots on net tonight. That was the best game we've seen from Tanner Pearson, I think, in probably a month and a half. So a lot of positive signs tonight from all of the forwards. And what was the last time Sean Monahan had scored? When was the last time Sean Monahan had scored? We're going back. Yeah. Stu Cowan, listed a bunch of guys last night, Yeah. And 2 or 3 of them got off the schneid tonight. So, 2-point night from it's funny. The other day, and I agreed with Marty when he said, this is going to get Anderson going. Like, we saw some life from him when he had that scrap. Yeah. He had seemed to have been lifeless. And I mean, you played, soccer. I played a lot of hockey and that. And you know what it's like when you go through a stretch where you don't score and you start to. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't know that, to tell you the truth, because I was. Right. Yeah. Okay. Because you never scored, I guess, Tony. Is that why?
No, I actually scored with regularity. I'm happy to say that I led the league once with 34 goals in 16 games.
Oh, well, I mean, I led
Playing,
leagues in scoring too, Tony, but I still had, I still had some slumps. We all do.
I hear you. Yeah. And, I wasn't playing at the highest level competition either. That always helps. Okay, but all kidding aside, why don't we do this, as a matter of fact, for our folks back in Master Control, if you can bring up the lines for tonight's hockey game, which were much talked about, not only the fact that Slav was playing with Suzuki and Caulfield, but take a look at this. Evans, Monahan, and Anderson was your second line. Dvorak, Gallagher, and Pearson, and Stevens, Yulanen, and Armia on the fourth line. Matheson, Lindstrom, Gooley, Barron, Struble, and Kovacevic, with Montembeault, of course, in goal. Let's keep it up on the screen if we can for a second, because once again, it was a real good night for several Montreal Canadiens players and several Montreal Canadiens lines. I mean, we talked about Monahan and the first goal that he scored of the hockey game. Well, once again, there's a real good forecheck by the Canadiens. And before this play actually happens, Matheson is able to keep a puck in. So he's actually putting pressure on a Seattle Kraken player. It stays in the zone. And then all of a sudden, Jake Evans is putting an awful lot of pressure on a Seattle Kraken player, which, if memory serves me well, I think it was Jamie Oleksiak. Puts a lot of pressure on him. He gives it away. And Josh Anderson notices Monahan all alone for a tap-in, and he just gives him a real good heads-up pass, boom, tap-in, and there you have it, 1-0 for the Montreal Canadiens, and that big goal. Then another one has Dvorak getting a puck at the net, Gallagher redirecting it, and Pearson able to jam home a loose puck. That makes it 2. We talk about the goal in the power play. It was tic-tac-toe from Suzuki to Caulfield. From Caulfield to Suzuki to Sean Monahan. That was a thing of beauty. The power plays never looked better than it looked on that particular goal. And once again, Josh Anderson's able to score the goal in the empty net. These lines. So I know you were happy you saw Slafkovsky with Suzuki and Caulfield. When you saw Evans on the second line, you said what?
Yeah, well, that was the last game too as well, right?
Yeah.
They had Evans on that line.
Yeah.
I mean, I was more upset with it last game when Slafkovsky was on the third line.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. But I mean, Sean Monahan started last game on the line with Suzuki and Caulfield.
Last game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus Detroit, he started with Suzuki and Caulfield.
Okay, I thought it was Armia with Suzuki and Caulfield, and Monahan with Evans and Anderson.
No, at one point you saw Armia. Yeah. Marty St. Louis changing it up there a little bit. He was going in the third period. Well,
I mean, he switched. Switched a couple of guys around there, and I mean, I was glad that. I mean, Slafkovsky, especially with the Newhook and Doc out. I mean, it's the obvious spot for him. I think and I really think he complements those two guys well. You saw tonight how good he can be along the boards. Like he was a beast. It's encouraging when he goes up against guys the size of Oleksiak, and he more than holds his own physically as a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
How effective is he going to be when he's 23 along the boards? He already is.
I'm happy, Grant, that they put Slafkovsky with Suzuki and Caulfield tonight for a couple of reasons. Okay. Yeah. I went to the last game. All right. I went to watch last game with my son, and I repeated this story earlier today on radio on BPM Sports, where of course I'm a collaborator with Larac and Gonzalez. And I was stopped by several fans after the first and after the second. And Grant, 5 people came up to me and said, "What in the world is Slafkovsky doing here? He can't play." Now, that was Saturday night. 48 hours after that game, you saw Slaf tonight. He didn't learn how to play in the last 48 hours. And a lot of that had to do with the role that he had, the line mates he had, the fact that obviously he was a lot more pumped up to play tonight. He's playing with a couple of guys who, are more talented. He's a more of a fit on that line. He knows exactly what he has to do. When Slafkovsky was drafted first overall, I mean, I don't know if they've said this or they will say it, but you know as well as I do, the thing that everyone pictured, the thing that everyone imagined was a couple of years down the line, Slaf is going to play on a line with Suzuki and Caulfield. Two smaller guys, one big guy. He's going to open up room for them. He's going to protect the puck. He's going to work the boards and all that stuff. And it's just, when Suzuki and Caulfield are your two most talented forwards, and one was drafted 15th by the Canadiens, one was drafted 13th by Vegas, and you pick a kid first overall, it's only normal that some of your more talented players end up playing together. And now, who knows? Maybe one day Slaf ends up on a line with Caulfield and Doc, because Doc was drafted 3rd overall. We'll have to wait and see. But this was nice, Grant, because he had played well with Caulfield in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't even think he played that badly on Saturday, to be honest with you. I mean, he's had worse games, but it's funny. When we were at the Winnipeg game, you had fans come up to you, and you told me after the second intermission, you came back and you said 5 fans stopped you or whatever in a row and said that what's going on with Slafkovsky. So that seems to be a common occurrence with you, Tony. I don't know why fans always want to come up to you and complain about Slafkovsky, but I think he's been over the last 10 games, it's probably the best hockey that he's played as a Montreal Canadian. And maybe the last game, he wasn't great, but again, you're a 19-year-old, you're going to have ups and downs. I mean, Cooley, I posted a stat the other night. I think he had 3 points in his last 7 games. He was -8 and had 3 points. Now tonight he scored a goal, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're just a box score watching and you look at it and say, oh, Slafkovsky didn't get any points, Cooley scored a goal, he must have been better. But we saw the game. We saw how good he was today. We saw what all he can bring to the Canadiens. It goes beyond getting points. I mean, he helped create that goal on the power play. Yeah. The first shift that he gets on the first power play this year, and he was an integral part of it. So that was encouraging. And I think obviously it's going to lead to him playing on the first power play next game too. And hopefully they produce again, and hopefully he's there for good.
Well, Arizona had a 5-0 lead, by the way, in period number 1 versus Washington, which had some people on social media say that Washington probably had the rookie dinner in Arizona. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, hey, we will get to your phone calls at one point here during the Sick Podcast at 1-888-5855-SICK. That's 1-888-585-7425. So I'm already going to let you know, so you can already jump on a line, because the second the calls come in, I will get to them. There's no doubt about that. The power play had gone, 8 or 9 games without a goal. They got a goal on Saturday night versus Detroit on the power play. Now they got one again. So things are starting to come around, Grant. Once again, there's a couple of players who hadn't scored in a while that all scored tonight. All of them, as a matter of fact. Monahan with 2, Pearson with the other, Josh Anderson. These are players that had gone 20-plus games without a goal. The power play has scored now in a couple of games in a row. Montembeault is celebrating the new contract with a really good performance tonight. It's good. Big win. It was good, but I don't want to take away anything from the Canadiens, but what in the world's going on with the Seattle Kraken? Starting to think they overachieved last season.
Oh yeah. I was saying to Tina there during the game, like they don't look like anything like they did last year. They were a forechecking demons last year, and tonight, I mean, I don't know if they ended up out shooting the Canadiens. So, I mean, in that regard, but they were outplayed tonight by the Canadiens for sure, I thought. And Montreal had, more dangerous opportunities, but we just didn't see that same jump that they had last year. they look like a different team. I've seen them a few times this year, and I think last year they overachieved, obviously, and this is probably closer to the team that you would expect them to be, given that they're an expansion club.
33-30, they outshot the Montreal Canadiens, but we also have to put into context that when a team takes a 3-0 lead, I mean, they usually end up taking the pedal off the metal.
True.
And so that kind of, flaws the stats a little bit, especially in terms of the shots. Hey, Tony, about 2 weeks ago, you were saying that Marty St. Louis should use his timeouts. I was praying for him to do it during the 2 to 3 minute shift. What did you think? A shift of 2 minutes and 56 seconds by the Dvorak line. The puck ends up in the net by Seattle, and it was Vince Dunn who scored the goal. That they couldn't get off. They couldn't get out of their zone. They couldn't get out of their zone.
You can't take a timeout when you ice the puck, right?
No, you cannot take a timeout when you ice the puck. As a matter of fact, you used to be able to, and if I'm not mistaken, it was probably 5-6 years ago that one of the things they brought up at the Board of Governors meeting was a potential change to the timeout rule of maybe forbidding you taking a timeout when you ice the puck, and it took effect. So that's it. And I saw a lot of people complaining about not taking the timeout on social media. Obviously, they're not aware of the rule. So, yeah.
And I mean, it just happened to have to be the old guys out there too.
Yeah.
Gallagher
was sucking air like you can't believe.
Oh.
My God.
I mean, he was trying. You could see him but he had nothing left in the tank. And that was very unfortunate that they got out there for 3 minutes. I think it may have padded.
Matheson lost a stick, Grant. Matheson lost a stick at the end too.
Yeah. I think it padded their ice time a little bit, but it was you saw that one coming a mile away. And geez, Seattle came close to tying it, didn't they? And I mean, Montreal dominated the first, whatever, 37 minutes or whatever it was, and then Seattle did come close to tying it. So they kept it close, but Montreal deserved that win for sure.
Hey, look, I'm sure when the calls come in, people are going to be asking, but earlier today, not that it's a big deal, it all depends on which way you look at it, right? Montreal, everyone's always looking for a controversy, right? But earlier today, the Montreal Canadiens took Arbor Xhekaj off of injured reserve, and they sent them down to the Laval Rocket. Now, we know that Laval has a game on Wednesday. They're playing Belleville, and then the Canadiens will host the Los Angeles Kings on Thursday. It seems to me that it's only normal that Xhekaj hasn't played in a couple of weeks. You get him, and maybe you send him down for a game before he gets up. I don't have a problem with that. It also seems to me more than normal, considering that Jaden Strubal's played very reliable hockey in the last couple of weeks. Add it all up, though, but some are saying, hold on a second, this could be really bad. Is Xhekaj going to lose his spot with the Montreal Canadiens? Grant, I don't see it as a big deal, but Strubel hasn't done anything to warrant coming out of the lineup.
No, and that's a pleasant problem, and I've tweeted it a couple times where you could argue that every game he's played, he's been certainly one of the top 4 defensemen. And you could argue that he's been one of the 3 best Habs defensemen in every game he's played. So hard to take him out. And I was wondering, and I meant to look up the stat, but I didn't have time. But
tell me
how many, what's Montreal's record with Strubel in the lineup?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use Agnello, Sammy, and Juliana and Master Control to get us that information while we're going to get to the calls. Speaking of which, let's do so. Let's get to your calls.
You called. Presented by Playground.
You Called is presented by Playground. Let's get to the phone calls at 1-888-5856, 1-888-585-7425. Without further ado, Sammy and Yellow, Juliana, and Master Control, tell me, where are we going tonight for call number 1 on the Sick Podcast? I'm Marinaro. He's Grant McCagg. Where are we going exactly? I guess we're going to have to ask this person. Hello, who's this? Hello?
Yeah, how's it going?
Is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes.
See it in your eyes.
I can see it in your smile. You're all I've ever wanted. And my arms are open wide. Who's this?
Oh, this is Josh from Calgary.
Josh, what's going on?
Not much, man. I'm so happy to be on the show. I've been watching you guys for the last 2 months, I think.
Thank
I
you.
love
It's
it.
my
That's some great information. Super entertaining. It's
it
fantastic.
is. I appreciate you saying that. I have to admit, I'm going to admit it right now. It is my favorite Montreal Canadiens podcast in the world. This one here.
Oh, you and me both. You and me both.
Thank you. Josh, tell me what's on your mind.
You know what? I just think that the whole Jack-Eye Struble situation, it's gonna be hard because, like you said, Struble has been playing so good. Like, you never know with young defensemen. I mean, as we know, Montreal has tons of young defensemen.
Okay.
But you just never know when they come in that they're gonna play as well as he has. And you know what? He's been playing so well, and I think it's gonna be tough to see where they can put him and Jack-Eye. You know what I mean?
Well, playing so well, guys. You know who else I think is playing really well? There's a guy that over the last couple of years, a lot of people wondered with the amount of defensemen the Canadians have, if he was going to be the odd man out. I have to tell you, take a look at the amount of offense that Justin Barron is bringing to the table. He tied with Mike Matheson for most goals among Montreal Canadiens defensemen. We know that the Canadians have a little bit less depth on the right side than they do on the left. So I know I'm getting away from this Struble Jack-Eye talk for a second here, but I just want to let you guys know Barron has really impressed me, guys. He impresses me more and more every game. He's got tremendous offensive instincts, and that defensive game that was maybe not up to par, well, it seems to be getting a little bit better and better every game. Grant, what do you think before I get to Josh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought he struggled in preseason, but since he got into the lineup about third game of the year or whatever it was, after Savard went down, he's just gotten better and better. You're right. His defensive game has come along. He's contributed. They put up a stat today. The Canadians are leading the league in defense.
Colorado, 20 goals.
With 20 goals.
Yeah, I think Montreal and Colorado are tied right now for 20.
Yeah. I mean, tied with McCagg and Byram for goals, like that's wild.
That's not too shabby.
And I think also
it's something you want to keep seeing, especially from the young guys that we have. So they're contributing, right? So
hey, Josh, let me ask you this because you brought it up. Is there room on your blue line for both Jack-Eye and Struble? And if there isn't, who's your odd man out?
I don't know, man. That's so hard because, like you said, they both play on the left. We have a few good guys that play on the left. I don't know, man. Like that's really up in the air for me. I can't really make that call, but I guess Struble is the younger one out of the two, I believe. So I guess sending him down to Laval would be okay. Maybe he can develop a little bit more of his game and stuff, and maybe he can find a spot later on. But I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough to say.
We appreciate taking the time. Thanks so much. One, of course, was brought up in the development system playing junior hockey in Canada, and the other one playing in the States, and that was Struble.
Tony, I've got an opinion on that.
Yeah, tell me.
I think what you're going to probably see is one of them playing on the right.
I think Struble could play on the right better.
Yeah. Well, Jack-Eye's played some on the right, and he looked okay. But
I have something for you. Ready?
Yeah.
Earlier this evening on TVA Sports Television, on the hit that I do with Jean-Charles Lajoie of JC at TVA Sport, of course, he said, why not Jack-Eye on the wing? If it gets to a numbers game, would you be opposed to Arbor Jack-Eye being converted to a winger? It happened with Nick Delorier, and it's happened with other NHL tough guys, but at the same time, is Jack-Eye in the tough guy category, or is he a guy who can play, who's tough?
Yeah, no, he's a good defenseman. I mean, steps into the NHL out of junior and makes the Canadians as a regular right off the bat.
Yeah,
that tells you that he's going to be an NHL defenseman. His whole career. No, I don't think you do that. But I mean, I think he could. He could fill a fourth line energy role and certainly get in there and bang bodies. He could do both for sure. But
The Montreal Canadiens used to have a defenseman who was really tough as nails, who the more he played, the better he got, to the point where he ended up being a regular on a team that ended up winning the Stanley Cup. He played for them in 1993. Who am I?
A defenseman?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you?
Lyle Odeline.
Okay, I thought you were talking about somebody that went up to the like.
No.
Ended up playing on the forward.
No, all I'm saying is Lyle Odeline, when he made his way with the Montreal Canadiens, he was known as a guy who could obviously take care of himself, right? But there were a lot of people who wondered, how good a hockey player is he?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish, looks out of place a little bit. What are his reads like? And he just got better and better and better to the point where he ended up being a regular on a team that ended up winning the Stanley Cup. So don't count on Arbor Xhekaj just yet, because you probably watched a few games where he looks like it might be going a little fast for him, because the way some of these forwards are going to be improving with the concepts that are and Marty St. Louis style of coaching, some of these defensemen are going to be improving as well. And I have to tell you, I have confidence in Stéphane Robida as a defense coach.
And I go back even a little further, Tony. Montreal did have a big, tough defenseman drafted out of junior who ended up playing a lot on the wing, and that was Rick Chartrand.
Yeah.
Maybe Xhekaj can be a Rick Chartrand type player for them I mean, there is so much depth on defense that it's not out of the realm of possibility that something like that happens where, they've got that, they want that toughness in there, but they also want Struble in the lineup.
Yeah.
They're playing against a tough team. Well, we'll put, and they've got 7 defensemen and it's Struble and Xhekaj. Don't forget what's going to happen when Jordan Harris gets back too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so it's going to be really interesting until Savard's back. He's back skating, so he may not be too far away.
Yeah.
But do they bring up? Will Xhekaj be brought back up before Savard's back? And if he is, will they try somebody on the right wing or sorry, on the right side? And also, I don't think Lindstrom's been that bad either. I know he had the one big gaff against Florida, and everyone always remembers the big gaff, but he scored goals too, and I think he's had a couple goals.
Yeah,
and made some good offensive plays and been half decent too. So I think they've got 9 legitimate NHL defensemen right now when everybody's healthy, and it's been a long, long time since you could say that about the club.
I have to tell you, I don't think Xhekaj playing forward on a fourth line is a crazy thought. Once again, there have been other defensemen who have done it. You get to keep him in the lineup. He gets to, open up some ice for some other players that he's going to be playing with. He gets to have, he can play his 10 minutes a game on a fourth line, plus play on the penalty kill as well as a defenseman if you wanted to. I don't think it's a crazy thought, once again, we're not saying that you need to do this because you absolutely have to. We're saying that if it gets to that point where you have so many capable NHL defensemen, because I think we can all agree the Canadians are going to need Xhekaj in their lineup. Everyone grows a couple of inches taller when they play with a guy like that. He brings a lot of confidence to a lot of players. He brings confidence to a team. He's a gamer. You want to have him in your lineup. Let's go to John. John, what's going on? Monahan scores 2. Pearson scores 1. Anderson in an empty netter. And Montembeault with some big saves down the stretch. What do you tell me? John, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, what do you tell me, John?
What would you like to know?
Well, you called me?
Yes. I called you because I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
So very much. And
Thank you.
I would like to say hi to Grant also. And
Hey, John.
Talking about Rick Chartra, how about Jimmy Roberts?
Jim Roberts. You talk. I was thinking about that later. Jimmy Roberts too, right?
Yeah, he was Mr. Dependable for Scotty Bowman.
That's right. Number 6. I was going to bring him up too, and I was wondering if somebody, an old timer like me, might it might jog memories when I said Rick Chartra that Jimmy Roberts was another one that could play both. Scotty, Scotty utilized players like that, and I mean, if you're going to copy a coach, Tony,
Yeah.
That's not a bad one to copy, right?
Yeah, no, that's not a bad one to copy at all. John, your thoughts on what you saw tonight at the Bell Center?
Really enjoyable game. Got a little worried in the third when they scored the goals, but it was especially nice at the end there to see Josh Anderson score his goal. Because as you said, he's been looking forward to it for so terribly long, and he's worked so hard at it. And as Grant said, that fight on Saturday probably motivated him much more, and that's what he needed.
Yeah, he looked like 100 pounds came off of him after he scored that goal. Damn, if only I was playing in the National Hockey League. Man, could I use an empty net goal right now to lose 100 pounds too.
Exactly. Yeah, I was quite embarrassed that he would go down the line when he was congratulated.
The guys.
It's a little embarrassing for him, but it was just a good game.
The guys were really happy for him, though. Did you see Caulfield that was jumping up and down on the bench seeing Josh Anderson score that goal? I mean, could you imagine going that long without a goal? I mean, the guys have been waiting, and so that was a big goal for him. Big goal.
The players love him.
Yeah. Before I go, my question would be, who do you think Canadians are going to draft this year? Forward?
You're looking at the draft expert right there. His name is Grant McCagg of Recruits, and he's co-host of the Recruits Draft Cast podcast. But I'm sure that Grant, and I'm going to throw it to Grant here in a second, but I'm sure that Grant will tell you tell me where they're going to pick, and I could probably give you a pretty good guess. But if we don't know where they're going to pick, what's the use of giving you a name, right? I mean, the pick's going to be different if they pick first or if they pick 10th.
I've been...
They have a bad time, and they go into a rough spot there, and they end up number 2. Who do we take?
Oh, well, it's a little... I mean, I always say at this time of year, a lot can change, but number 2.
They'll take Cole Yzerman at number 2.
Yeah, no. No, I don't think they certainly don't need another defenseman, even though Salayev would be great. Caden Lindstrom would be nice, but so would Yzerman. No, you're right, Tony. Another goal scorer, and that's what that kid is. Yzerman just is a sniper. So as far as a fit goes, he's not my favorite. I've got him 7th now ranked, which is lower than a lot of people. So
he's been dipping, over the last couple of weeks, based on what I heard. And
little bit, like he's kind of a bit of a one-way guy, Yeah. If he's not scoring goals, he's not necessarily doing a lot out there some nights. So I've soured a little bit on him, but you can't deny that he's a goal scorer, and the Canadians need that. They certainly do. But I mean, Lindstrom would be great. TJ Ginla, they passed on Jerome back, and I still, to this day, I remember the Memorial Cup that year.
That was the Terry Ryan trade.
Seeing when they took Terry Ryan.
Yeah, at number 8,
and seeing Jerome Ginla and just saying, wow, Montreal can draft this guy, and they passed on him. Well, maybe they won't pass on the Iginla this time.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you, John. Have a great night, my friend. Thank you very much. More of your calls at 1-888-585-7425, 1-888-585-SICK. We'll get to your calls. Montreal Canadiens win by a score of 4-2. Hello, who do we have the honor of speaking with? Jeff, are you there?
By a score of 4-2. Hello, who do we have the honor of speaking with?
Hey, Jeff from Dorval.
Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Jeff, all right, please put the we have an echo here because of course there's a 7-second delay, so we're hearing
better now.
It is much better now. Jeff, what's going on? Welcome
All right.
to the podcast.
Good, and you?
Very, very good. Thank you very much, my friend.
All right. Yes. Today, one player who really struck out my feet was Slafkovsky. Jesus, he used his body. I don't remember the last time he used this big body, but today he was going back to the net. He was forcing penalties. He really impressed me today. I hope this is things to come because first overall pick and a big body like that, sky's the limit for this guy. Honestly, another guy who really impressed me today. And Saturday, I was at the Bell Center. Jaden Struble. Jesus, this guy is good on defensive, man. He's got good vision. He's a good hockey sense, and honestly, these two guys, last couple of games, these guys are the guys who are impressing me most.
Jeff, let's tackle one player at a time if we can. Grant.
Yeah.
It's the most comfortable I've seen Slafkovsky look in every game, in any game he's played thus far in the National Hockey League. Not necessarily saying it's the best because I haven't really taken the time to really analyze them all to say it's the most comfortable. Like he looked like a veteran at times.
Especially at home. Definitely at home. That's the most comfortable I've seen him. And last game, you're right. The last game he did struggle. The more I think about it, he actually wasn't. He got thinking too much. He grips his stick too much when he gets back home. It just, I don't know what it is, but tonight he just played. He went out. He worked. He relied on his instincts. He skated. He hit. He shot. He tried to shoot the puck a couple times instead of always passing it. I don't know if you saw that highlight from the Canadiens today of him scoring the goal on the 2-on-1 where he didn't pass it, he shot it,
Yeah.
And you could tell that, like, when he got back to Marty's looking at him like, that's what you do, kid, just use that shot. Cause he has a really a good shot. It's just, I think we're going to see more and more of it as it goes along, in part because he's playing with with Caulfield and Suzuki, and even more so because I think he's getting more comfortable. He's starting to, what I really liked about him tonight too was his reads. He read the play really well. He, I saw it in his draft here, and it was one of the reasons why they picked him first, because he does have good hockey sense. It's just, it's a learning curve. It's hard. It takes time, especially on the North American ice for a European kid. But he looked, I agree that I don't recall him, especially at home, being as comfortable before as he was tonight. So that's very encouraging.
So, Jeff, you know what I really liked about Slafkovsky? Something that we haven't said yet. Okay. Something we haven't said yet. Okay.
Yep.
When that stick got flicked out of his hands, all right, and some are going to say, well, you should have had two hands on the stick and whatever. Okay. When that stick got flicked out of his hands and he went back to the bench and he slammed that door and he let the referee have it. And some are going to say, you're a young player like that, you shouldn't let the referee have it. Okay, that's fine. Okay. I looked in his eyes and you know what he had?
Fire
in his eyes.
No. He had the eye of the tiger, my friend. He had the eye of the tiger. Okay.
Eye of the Fire Tiger.
As Rocky's biggest fan, I know when you have the eye of the tiger, and I know when you don't have it. Remember when Apollo Creed told him he was training him in Rocky 3 so that he can go up against Clubber Lang, Mr. T? Remember that? And he told him, eye of the tiger, eye of the tiger. Rise it up. Back on the street, did my time, took my chances, went the distance, now I'm back on my feet, just a man and his will to survive. Jeff, so many times it happens too fast. You change your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the past. You must fight just to keep them alive. Eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last. Okay, go ahead. Known survivor.
Glad I have volume control.
Fox is praying in the night, and he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger. Jeff, thank you so much for calling. It's been a while since I used to sing. At one point, they told me not to.
I couldn't tell, Tony.
Yeah, at one point, they told me not to, and I did anyway. Those were the days. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jeff. All right, okay. There you have it, Jeff. By the way, we do take singing requests. Karaoke is. I'd like to start with the karaoke. By the way, and Yellow, Sammy, Juliana, and Master Control. If we can have a karaoke here in the podcast studios of the Marinaro residence, we have the karaoke machine, a little bit of hockey karaoke. I know I would never be happier. Mark, what's going on? Mark, you there?
I'm here. Hey, Tony, how are you, man?
Very, very good. I just had a chance to sing Eye of the Tiger. Amazing, my friend.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, Montreal, born and raised, living in the U.S. for plus 20 years, but still a Montreal Canadiens fan, believe it or not.
Where in the U.S.?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. What takes you to Atlanta, Georgia, if you don't mind me asking?
Home of the Thrashers, buddy.
Home of the Atlanta Thrashers and Ilya Kovalchuk.
That's right. I ended
Patrick Stefan, number one pick overall.
Danny Heatley.
There you go, Danny Heatley.
Yeah,
hey, listen, I'm calling you guys. I'm going to be real quick. I've been watching the Canadiens even though I've been gone for so long. And the reality is, I watched the Seattle game tonight, and I got to tell you, it reminded me of one thing. And I want to ask you and Grant, who are amazing, by the way. I love watching you guys from far away, but
thank you.
People forget that when Slafkovsky was drafted, Shane Wright was supposed to go first. And all of a sudden, people are complaining that Slafkovsky was picked over Cooley. And I think Slafkovsky was the best guy in that draft. But all of a sudden, nobody hears about Shane Wright anymore, right? Because the negativity in Montreal just is incredible. The Canadiens made the right choice, and everybody's ignoring the fact that Shane Wright should not have been picked first, and the Canadiens did not pick him first.
Imagine what would have been if they would have picked Shane Wright first. It was at around this time a couple of years ago, early December, that everything was pointing towards Shane Wright being the Montreal Canadiens pick if they were going to have the number one pick overall come June, 6 months later. And you're right. The popular opinion was Shane Wright. There are people who showed up to the draft with Shane Wright jerseys. Like, I didn't see anybody at the Bell Center that night with a Habs jersey with Slafkovsky. But I saw some Shane Wright jerseys in the attendance. And when they announced Slafkovsky as the number one pick, I mean, there were boos by some people. Some people booed. Could you imagine?
Tony, why is the media forgetting the fact? Why is the media forgetting the fact that everybody wanted this other guy? We didn't pick him. We picked Slafkovsky, and there's been nothing but negativity around this poor kid that's playing awesome hockey right now.
I hear you. Yeah.
And we're all ignoring that. And by the way,
I'm not forgetting it, by the way, because I had about 4 shirts printed, and it cost me about $100.
Tony, listen, I'm a fellow Paisano, so I'm going to go have a soppressato sandwich right now and celebrate the victory tonight.
You know what? Between you and I, as a guy who has had some late night meals, 11 p.m. for soppressata sandwich right now is probably not the best thing in the world. Probably not the best thing in the world.
Maybe he's not going to sleep till about 4.
Grant, look, even though you were very high on Slafkovsky, I mean, I think even you would say that, let's give it another couple of years before the jury is actually out on who the best player in that draft is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was surprised that they didn't. I mean, who did Shane Wright score his first NHL goal against last year, Tony?
The Canadians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised, almost a little surprised. He's been scoring in the, he has 8 goals or whatever. So he's producing in the AHL.
Well, he's a good player. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. No, and he's 19 years old.
Scouts touted him as number 1 for how many years?
I'm the first guy that's been saying, be patient with Slafkovsky. So I'm going to be the first guy to say, be patient with Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm a little surprised that they didn't call him up for this game. He scored against the Habs last time, his first NHL goal. So he seems to be motivated when he plays against the Habs, go past the bench and give that stare that he did at the draft to Marty and, and everybody if he just scored another goal, right? But
yeah,
no, you're exactly. You've got to, I say you wait 5 years. So who knows, 3 years from now, Wright might be a 30 goal scoring top 2 center. I know Beniers isn't looking that good. I thought he'd take another step this year and he's been disappointing. Like he was the kid that was picked top 2.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
And he's a year older. He's a year older than Wright. So he
had a very good year last year, by the way.
He did, but
yeah,
he's not, McTavish looks a heck of a lot better. I mean, I ranked McTavish ahead of Beniers.
Yeah.
So that's looking good now. But Beniers was the 2nd overall pick, and he's expected to be their number 1 center. But I think the jury's out on that. And I think it could be right down the road. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Anaheim's got some nice kids, by the way. Telling you something that you already know. Yeah. Anaheim's got some nice kids. All right, Dana. Yeah. Dana, are you there?
Still there.
Yeah. Is this Dana White?
Nope, not the owner of the UFC, unfortunately. Just regular Dana.
Dana, what's going on? Tell me.
A lot of things, Tony. First of all, tonight, Slafkovsky on the first line.
Yeah.
Playing the Kraken, the Seattle Krakens.
Yeah.
That means it's just it doesn't mean a lot, but there's a story behind it.
What's the story?
Shane Wright drafted 1st overall.
Oh, that's the story. So you think they put Slafkovsky on the number 1 line tonight against Seattle to basically say to Seattle, you drafted Wright and
Slafkovsky against the Kraken on the first line because he was the 1st overall pick?
I think it's got nothing to do with it, but I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion, but it's got nothing to do with it, in my opinion. You want to know why?
No, I think that Slafkovsky was ready to forecheck, to have a presence that's good enough to feed Suzuki and Caulfield, and the proper small areas when it was needed.
Okay, but I think, hold on a second, Dana. I think you started by saying, was there a message that he was on the number 1 line against Seattle? Is that right?
No, but that's just, concomitance.
Okay, perfect.
Incidents.
So I got to ask you a question.
There's no correlation or logical implications in between the fact that tonight Slafkovsky was on the first line of the Montreal Canadiens and the fact that, well, Shane Wright was not there.
Okay, Dana, there's absolutely no correlation. Dana, if I can.
Between those two events.
Dana!
Yeah.
Positumo. Listen to me. Jeez, you should end up having your own podcast. You don't give me a chance to speak. I usually do that. Listen to me carefully.
Oh, I know you can speak.
Who had the number one pick overall? The Montreal.
I love that you're opinionated.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Now, here's the deal. Who had the number one pick? The Montreal Canadiens, Slafkovsky. Who had the number two pick? New Jersey Devils, Nemec. Who had the number three pick? Arizona, Cooley. Who had the number four pick? Seattle, Shane Wright. So the fact that they were playing Seattle tonight
that's right.
has absolutely no bearing on where the Canadiens putting Slafkovsky. So thank you. Like you said, no correlation whatsoever. You call anytime. We got to run. 514. 514. Am I going with 514? It's a toll-free number, 1-888-585-7425. You know which number I was about to give out, eh, Grant? 1-888-585-7425. When you do
yellows.
Sometimes. Yeah, and yellow's a cell phone number. That's right. Josh. Josh, you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Very, very good. I would imagine it's not Josh Anderson.
No. I'm glad he got his goal, though. We were cheering for him.
Yeah. Everybody's glad that he got his goal, man. Everybody. You see the guys on the bench, the guys on the ice, the smiles. There was an image of Justin Barron, who was closest to Josh Anderson. He was pretty happy as well. Everyone was happy.
Yeah, Caulfield gave him a little pat on the head, too. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Tell me, what's on your mind, my man?
Oh, I was just wanting to come on the show. I really been watching you guys a lot, and you and Grant are a good team on here. And I just wanted to say that they brought it up on the broadcast about the goals from the defense, and they're tied with Colorado and how it was impressive. And I just think that's a really big bright spot on the team. With all the injuries and stuff, it's just it's a good thing to have that we have our defensemen score, and it's really cool.
Grant, very engaged, the defense in the offense, and once again, 20 goals for this defense, 5 by Matheson, 5 by Barron leading the way. And the fact that Harris, not that he's, there to score goals, the fact that Harris hasn't been more implicated offensively, Grant, do you think that it could work against them if it becomes a numbers game?
Well, he's not the biggest guy either, or the most physical. There's
is he missing an X factor?
Just if you don't covet elite hockey sense, I think he's got elite hockey sense, and his skating is top notch. So those aren't necessarily sexy things for a defenseman, but they're pivotal. He's only played what 80, 100, less than 100 games in the NHL.
Yeah.
So it's tough, it's hard to judge all these guys. There's 5 or 6 defensemen who they're going to have to make decisions on that have all played probably less than 100 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, 3 years from now, he could be the best of the bunch. We don't know, it just, and then, there's some nights, I think Strubles looked better than Gooley, you could argue, over the past 5 games. So is he going to be a better defenseman?
Glad I don't have to make those decisions, but I wouldn't bet on Struble over Gooley. But I understand.
No,
of course,
exactly,
I understand your point. Yes, of course.
There's just, and I think it's going to be interesting. What I think you're going to see, unless the Canadians are really in the thick of it in February. Right now they're still they're 4 points out of the playoffs. So if they're still 4 points out of the playoffs at the end of February, maybe they don't trade Savard, but you have to think with the development of these guys that a couple of these guys are going to move. Kovacevic, I mean, he's got a few goals, but defensively this year, there's been a lot of nights when he might be the guy that's been making the most mistakes too. So, there's no guarantee that he's going to have a spot in the lineup next year. There's just it's a pleasant problem to have, and it'll be really interesting to see come trade deadline if they're out of it, and that if they're sellers, what they end up doing, because they've got a pile of options there.
Yeah, I don't think David Savard ends up getting traded this season, but I do think that David Savard will end up getting traded either in the summer or at the trade deadline of next season, because, of course, he still has this year and another year left on his contract, which pays him $3.5 million. Jake Allen's another guy who's at the contract of, $3.85 million. He's got this year and next year.
You don't think teams will want a guy that can play in your top four?
Oh, yes, I do.
Because he's making $3.5 million next year, Tony?
No, yes, I do. But he's going to be coming off of injury that'll have him be out of the lineup for about 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Yeah. Which, look, could be a blessing in disguise in a way, because teams will say, oh, you know what, he was able to preserve himself. But I'm just getting to the point where, would I take David Savard, who played on a team that won a Stanley Cup, if he only had 1 year left on a contract at $3.5 million, and he only had about a month and a half to pay salary on another contract? Yes, I would. I just think that he'll fetch more in a year from now, because teams will say, hey, you know what? I only have a couple of months to pay. But yeah,
there's two ways of looking at that. I mean, you pay more. Typically, you pay less for a rental than you do for a guy that you're going to have for a year and a half.
You could look at it that way as well, for sure.
Yeah.
All depending on which way you're looking at that glass. There's different optics for sure. Let's take a couple of more quick calls. All right, let's go to hello. Who's this? But look, there's no doubt in my mind that I think what's going to happen this year, regardless of where the Canadians are in the standings, I think Sean Monahan will be traded, personally. I think Tanner Pearson will be traded.
Yeah.
And just to name a couple. And in the next year, it could be now or next year, Yoel Armia, Jake Allen, and David Savard will be traded as well. Final one, I think, is Richard. Is Richard there?
Yes, I am.
Richard, you are the last call in the Sick Podcast on this Monday night. What's going on?
What's going on? Well, Grant, I have to tell you, I'm from the Subway area, and I watched that Dvorsky, and he's a real deal.
Yeah.
And
I loved him.
Montreal. I wish somehow Montreal could work out a deal somewhere down to get him into Montreal, because he makes Tony's favorite player,
Musty,
look like a gem.
The U.S. team didn't even invite Musty to the World Juniors.
I saw that.
So, Tony, you can tell Snake, the only thing I would ever give Muskie top 10 rating for is laziness.
Is that right, eh?
That's right. And if it wasn't for Dvorsky being there, I don't know where that Muskie would be right now, because Dvorsky makes him a better player.
Mm-hmm. Goyette's having a good season over there, right?
Goyette, yes, he is.
Yeah.
And I can't understand why this team is floundering around 500 when they got so many NHL draft picks on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mania just came back, and he'll help once he gets up to speed. They need a little help on defense there, but
my son has a friend who plays on that team.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Jabril Toure. They played soccer growing up.
Toure.
Oh
yeah, my goodness.
Sure,
yeah, they played soccer growing up together. He's a Dorval kid. His
Ottawa
father
signed him.
Yeah, his father coached for quite some time, soccer as well. And so he's an 03, like my son Anthony is. And they used to play together for Saint Laurent Soccer. And at one point, this kid went the way of hockey. And it's a good thing that he did. And you know what? He's a great story, because he played in the CCHL. He played for Carleton. And then from there, he went to Hawkesbury. And then from there, he was with Sudbury Wolves last year. And he showed up to the Ottawa Senators camp. They brought him up to camp, invited him to camp, and he got himself a professional contract. Played a couple of preseason games. Actually played one versus the Montreal Canadiens in preseason, and then they sent them back to Sudbury for this season. But he's a 6'7", over 200-pound defenseman. He could take care of himself. He's a real he's a real hardworking kid. He's a real hardworking kid. Jabril Toure. So anyway, I
had him ranked. I had him ranked in the draft. I thought he'd get picked, and he's a good skater too. He's a bit of a kind of a Jack-eye type of story there with him, Tony. You know?
Yeah. So Richard, you calling in and calling and talking about the Sudbury Wolves. I don't think you thought that I knew a player on that team before you called, eh? But I got one for you there.
Tony, I didn't even think you knew where Sudbury was.
Yeah. Well, I probably don't, because I'm not very good in geography. I do know it's in Ontario, but let's end it at that. Hey, what's on your mind, Richard?
I just want to make a couple of things here. I thought Anderson tonight on that first goal by Monahan showed what a team player he is. He had a good chance to shoot, but he went for the right play.
Yeah.
And just one other thing with Grant. Do you think Montreal stockpile draft picks for 2025 get that Quebec goaltender?
Daigle?
Yeah.
Do I think that they'll... Well, maybe. I mean, they took 3 in the last draft. And I know they're pretty happy with Fowler and Volokin, the kid in Russia, and Quentin Miller actually might be outplaying Daig at times. Daig didn't have a great. He went to the Hlinka there and he got lit up in the first game in the Hlinka and then didn't play the rest of the tournament. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why. They're going to have a bunch of picks again this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they took another goalie, and perhaps it's Daig. That wouldn't surprise me at all. That's a good question.
Gabriel Daigle, is it not, or?
It's not Alex. That's all I know.
No. I think it's he's in Victoriaville, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a big boy, eh? He's a big boy.
Yeah, a little inconsistent, but a lot of 17-year-old goalies are inconsistent. But you never know. That might be something that they look at for sure.
John Wayne says LaSalle will be better than Daigle.
There you go.
There we go. So everyone's got to listen. It's a crapshoot, the draft. This is not an easy thing to do or predict. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your call. Sammy, will we be taking 1 or 2 questions, or is that it for us? You know what? I think that is going to be it for tonight, because guess what? Time flies when you are having fun. Once again, Sean Monahan scores a couple of goals for the Canadiens, one of which was on the power play. Tanner Pearson added 1. The Canadiens got off to a 3-0 lead. Seattle narrowed the lead with a couple of goals. Actually rang one off the post in period number 3. They had a chance to tie it up. Samuel Montembeault made a huge stop off of Jordan Eberle in close with less than 3 minutes to go. And then when Seattle pulled their goaltender, Josh Anderson, 180 feet away, was able to shoot it into the empty net, scoring his first goal of the season. The Montreal Canadiens win by a score of 4-2. Grant McCagg, thanks so much for all your help tonight, Grant. We'll talk to you again soon, my man.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, there you have it. Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, reminding all of you who brought you the Sick Podcast tonight. We'll start with Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. They are driven to be different. Also, La Bitte à TB, winner of a dozen international awards. They're brewed in Quebec, by the way. They offer quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. La Bitte à TB, embrace your true nature. Also brought to you in part by Playground, their anniversary series from December 7th to the 18th, with over $1 million in guaranteed prize pools, including a $400,000 guaranteed main event. Join us in celebrating 13 years as the premier poker destination. Visit playground.ca for details. And once again, Ted over at Accent Insurance Solutions, we'd like to welcome you as a new sponsor of the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. And I think it's safe to say on behalf of Agnello, Sammy, and Juliana at Master Control, we welcome you to the Sick family, and we hope that you're going to be with us for a very, very long time. Accent Insurance Solutions doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product right on the money. Whatever your insurance needs, home, auto, or business, call the Accent team at 514 363-3636. So thank you very much for joining us. Folks, thank you once again for watching. I love you all. You are my sick army. You are my sick community. If you like the podcast tonight and you got your Montreal Canadiens fix, like it, share it with your friends, comment sick. And if you're going to listen on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love. By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't send out a special shout out and hello to Mario Charpentier, one of my new best friends in the whole wide world. Mario and I, along with his 2 sons, and it was a pleasure to hang out, meet with them, and chat with them, and have a bite and a beverage with them on Friday night a couple of days ago. We had a great time, and they were just terrific hosts. I really enjoyed the Charpentier family. So this one's for them because they are big-time supporters of the Sick Podcast and love it. So for Mario Charpentier and Fizz, for Agnello, Juliana, and Sammy at Master Control, they're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.